Critical Enquiry Proposal. The Contemporary Tectonic, or Exploring Video Games as a Platform for the Voiceless. The proposed research inquiry seeks the answer to this question. Could the potential space of video games be the contemporary tectonic? To investigate this, I need to try to answer these three questions. Question 1. What is the value in finding or establishing a visual language within video games? It has been written that video games are the medium of the 21st century, or the ludic century. There are many current debates around the non-commercial and cultural use of video games, such as should video games be used for cultural or political purposes, or should they remain as an entertainment platform? Should video games that are not purely for gaming entertainment be called something other than video games, such as video games for change? Or why can't video games be left for the gamers? Although these questions are related to this inquiry, the focus of the study is to understand the medium as a platform for voicelessness. To clarify, painting has a well-defined language, which is essentially a male language. Film and photography, arguably the medium of the 20th century, also have a language. That is again an essentially male language. Video game, although also understood as a male domain, is a medium young enough to allow diversity to inform its language, its space and its possibilities. This is the value of this inquiry. Question 2. Can the space of video game be defined as a language or distinct system of artistic communication? William Pugh, a games designer and founder of development studio Crows, stated, "I approach game design as designing a space for your game and your player to have a conversation, after which a player can take away their own interpretation and meaning." What Pugh is describing is the function of visual communication. A visual space where the designer or artist can have a conversation with the player or audience. There is evidence to support the use of video games for artistic and creative practice, and there have been a number of research studies which have outlined ways of talking and writing about video games in the creative and visual arts field. This inquiry aims to add to this research. Question 3. How does this language and/or creative space relate to historical 20th century art and cultural contexts, in particular the tectonic? Carl Einstein's theory of the tectonic is an adaptive theory and useful for understanding 20th century visual art in a way that does not undermine the formalist nature of modernism or the cool rebelliousness of the postmodern or anti-modern. Einstein described the tectonic as a binder that captured multiple levels of reality into one formal expression, where the fluidity of individual subjective experiences and the formal elements of a piece of visual art can be bound together in that moment to provide reason and hegemonization of the present reality. This binder stabilizes the experience of visual art, but also, being itself fluid, tectonic, the bound experience is not rigid and allows slippage. It is a method that allows a formalist structural language to exist in the same moment as subjective flux. Form and unform in one. A further aim of this investigation is to discover if this tectonic theory can be applied to video games. Einstein wrote, "We understand the tectonic as a precondition for spatial experiences which goes beyond the objects, where these preconditions are defined as a general function. Their form dispositions are not lyrically fluctuating formations, but rather in them we find visual reason, the unavoidable, normative and intuitive guiding principle in all vision." This leads to the question, could the potential space of video games be the contemporary tectonic? And if defined as such, is it a space for the voiceless? The research will use quantitative secondary source material from books and journals to answer this question. Primary research might take the form of interview. For instance, with Ian Boggust, whose theory of procedural rhetoric suggests video games have the capacity to create significant long-term social change. Also, active researchers at the Digital Cultures Research Centre at UWE, in particular Dr. Patrick Krogan, may be willing to discuss areas of this investigation. Carl Einstein. The narrative and formal canon transmits not only past subjective experience and affection, but also the dynamics and power to govern contemporary reality.